Hello and welcome to another SketchUp tutorial series. This will be 3 or 4 videos and we will be building another playground equipment. This time, as you can see, there's quite a bit more detail. We've got some interesting new features and some more detail underneath the roof. So I hope you find this interesting. Let's begin from the beginning. We'll create a new file. We'll delete the helper person, and we'll call this Playground 2. I'm going to push 2-1 because I'm going to make multiple copies of this file. Alright, to begin, remember that we like to make components of everything. So the whole idea, the whole philosophy behind SketchUp is to start with simple, primitive shapes and then build more complex geometry from them. So we'll start with a rectangle. And so you just start at the origin, draw out till you see it, and then we're going to make this 3 inches, comma 3 inches. So bottom right hand corner you can see my measurement box, and I put 3, comma 3. Remember our default unit is inches, so it will always, whenever you just type a number, it'll automatically assume that it's inches. And we're going to take these pillars and extrude them out with the push-pull tool to 12 feet. So these will be the pillars that will form the playground. So take the select tool, triple click this, right click it, and make it a component. We'll call it a pillar. Now we want to make these about 4 feet apart, so we'll grab one with the move tool. The hotkey for the move tool is M, so you can just click M. The way I usually do this is I have one hand on the mouse and one hand on the keyboard, so I can hit various hotkeys on the keyboard as I work, and I can swap back and forth between tools relatively quickly. So I'll click on this corner, start moving it on the red axis, and then hit the control key so that it's duplicated, and then type 4 apostrophe enter. Now we'll take that again, click it, click the both of them, click on the move tool, click on the 2, start moving them both in the green axis, hit control to duplicate, and then I get, once again, 4 feet. And then one final time. Click it, move it, start moving it in the green direction, hit control to duplicate, 4 feet. So now we have 6 columns with which to begin our playground. Now the next part, we're going to build the platform. This will be very similar to what we did in the first one. You create a rectangle of any size underneath on the base, and then we'll push-pull it up 2 inches, and then we will bring it up with the with the select tool, triple click it, make it a component. We'll call it a platform. We'll move it in the blue direction up 30 inches. You can use any dimensions you like, whatever makes sense to you. Your end result does not have to look exactly like what I'm creating. So you can use different results if you like. Should have about the same level of detail though. So we'll grab the select tool and we'll enter this component, the platform component. And notice how everything else kind of grays out. We'll use the push-pull tool to grab this edge and infer to the outside of this pillar. And then on the opposite face, once again, we'll do the same thing. And then for the other 2 faces, we'll push-pull, but we'll infer to the inside of the face. So this is exactly like what we did in the last one. So infer to this side of the face. And that way, on this side, when we cut out a chunk here. Now remember, you could do lines, but that would be a 4-click operation. So it's easier to take the rectangle tool, click on that intersection, drag over to this intersection, click, and then you'll have your new geometry. If I take the push-pull tool, you'll see that it cuts it away. And if I hide the rest of the model, you can see that those lines are there. By the way, I'll show you how to hide the rest of the model here in another one. Actually, this is a good time to show it off. This is what I do. with the search tool, I type the word hide, and then you get a bunch of hide-related tools. And this is what I do. I have H set to just hide something that's selected, and then Shift H to hide everything but what you're working on. So if you're in a component, you hit Shift H, it will get rid of everything. So what you can do is you can change these shortcuts by just clicking on these little boxes here. And I believe H is set to some other tool, but it's something that you never, like, it's like one of the movement tools which you would never ever click on or use except by, the automatic, using the middle mouse button to orbit, stuff like that. I think it's like it's set to one of those. So I always just remap it to the hide H and Shift H. So you can do it here too. You can just hide and Shift hide. I have never actually used this feature, hide similar components. Not really sure what that's about. So we'll move around here to the other side. You need the other geometry there in order to do this, do these inferences, but there we go. Push pull. P is the keyboard shortcut for push pull. If you ever want to know what a keyboard shortcut is, you can type push pull and then you'll see that the shortcut is P. The ability to map keys to keyboard to the keyboard is actually a really new feature in the free version of SKETCHUP, and I'm actually quite pleased that they that they did it. All right, moving along. So this is now a component. The platform is a component. Let's duplicate it. Well, remember, when you're going to move stuff, you want to use logical inference points. So I'm actually going to take, since it's already componentized, I can actually grab it from this corner, start moving in the green direction, and then hit Control to duplicate it, and then infer to the outside edge of that pillar. And then we'll grab it again and start moving it up in the blue direction, maybe about 6 inches. Finally, we will add some feet to our pillars. So we'll double click to get inside of one of the components. Everything else gets grayed out. Now we'll grab the circle tool. Now check this out. If I mouse over this midpoint here for a couple of seconds, and then I mouse over this midpoint here for a couple of seconds, it'll allow me to infer to both of them. Or it did before. It did before. Kind of irritated that it's not. Alright, whatever, I'll use the tape measure. We'll grab from here to here, and we'll grab from here to here, and then we've got our midpoint. Circle tool, grab it, pull it out about 4 inches, 4-inch circle radius, push pull, and we'll push it up, say, 6 inches. And then you'll notice that since it's a component, it has propagated those changes to all of the other models. Save and exit out of our thing. And we'll go back into the eyeglasses thing, delete all of our guides, and then close this up again. All right, for the last part of this video, we will build our roof. Now, it would be cool if we could... You could build your roof in place, but I think it might be easier if we have a version of it out here that we can mess with, and then have the roofs that are sitting up here kind of in their own space. So let's start right here. Start with a rectangle that is, rectangle tool is here, and we'll build the roof. We'll make it 60 inches by 80 inches. So a rectangle that's 60 by 80. And then we'll pull it up 2 inches. Push pull 2 inches. And then we'll make it a component. So make component, roof. Now this is how we're going to make this really, really easy to do. We're going to pick it up and hit Control to duplicate it. And then we're going to just get it up there. Get it up on top of the roof. And now we're going to kind of fine tune its positioning. So we'll pull it a little bit this way. We'll pull it a little bit this way. If you mouse over it, you'll find this little red plus sign right here. And you'll notice how the protractor appears over here. That means that you can rotate it by grabbing these handles. So if I click on that plus, I can rotate it up to a nice angle. And then what we'll do is we will duplicate it again in this direction, in the right direction. And then we'll rotate this one around So it's kind of an opposite angle, and then move it in the blue direction, move it down, and maybe out some more in the red direction. Try to keep it locked on the various axes. Don't let it like don't let it don't let it go off in some weird direction. If this line that I'm dragging out here is black, that means that you're going off in some weird random direction. So try to, whenever you pick it up, if you accidentally move it in some weird random direction, that you are undoing that and removing it. You can always move it back into position by inferring to some other geometry, but let's move you down. Wait, not down. Let's move you, yeah, red direction. Well, let's move this one down just a little bit more, and then in a little bit more. Boom. Okay, so there's our two roofs, our first two roofs. And now here's what we want to do. So these are all components. These things are all going to be exactly the same. And don't worry if the posts are sticking out. That's by design. We'll fix that later. So let's edit this one. So first triple click or double click it to get into it, and then we'll leave those ones up there. Now what we want to do is we want to add some support structures on them. And it would be cool because we could work on the bottom side, but let's just flip it over so we don't have to worry about that. So we'll use the rotate tool and rotate it about the blue axis. Rotate it 180 degrees, and there we go. And so we will edit the component. We'll do an offset on this bottom face. I flipped it over. We'll offset it inward by 2 inches, and you'll notice up there. Oh, why did they move? Oh, I'm sorry, I messed up. Before we go in to edit it, then we want to flip it here. So let's flip it around 180 degrees, and now go in and edit it. Because when you move it around here, it'll move up there. So when you're editing the component, you don't want to do any moving and stuff. So you want to move the component as a whole. So move the component as a whole, rotate it, and get to the bottom side of it. Okay, so let's do our offset here. And we'll do a 2-inch offset, and you'll notice that offset is on the inside of these ones as well. And then here we will push-pull that down 1 inch, which is about half the thickness of this thing. And then we'll add like a center structural detail here, and we can do this really simply with the tape measure. Make sure you're inferring to this inside edge here, and then we'll find the midpoint on this line, which is going to be right there. Boom. And so we want it to be 2 inches wide, so we'll pull a line out here, 1 inch, and then a line out here, 2 inches. So there it is. So the middle line is was just to find that center point, and then we draw the other two. It's sort of how you would measure out to get like layout for hanging a picture or something like that. So we'll draw like a rectangle or a couple of lines. You can do this with a pencil tool or with a rectangle tool to create that. We'll push-pull that up, and then infer to this edge. And then I'm going to clean up the geometry by healing these lines right here with the eraser. So there it is. And if we look up at our other roofs, you'll see that same geometry has been added. Let's add one more little extra piece of geometry that's kind of fun, makes a little extra visual appeal. We'll start out here. We'll create a rectangle that is we'll create a rectangle that's like 4 inches by, I don't know, 36 inches, something like that. Undo. I'll do it this way. Whoops. Oh, by the way, if you're drawing a rectangle and you hit the Control key, it actually changes what it's drawing from. So normally I'm drawing from one corner to one corner. If I hit the Control key, it'll actually start drawing from the middle. So you notice how it's now pulling from the middle? And 99% of the time, that is not the behavior you want. I don't know why anyone would do that, but it is not usually how I want things. So we'll see that it is, we'll do 36 by 4 inches. And then we'll pull it up 4 inches. So we just want a 4-inch by 4-inch beam that we'll use as a structure. Now check this out. We're going to triple click this and make this a component within your roof component. So make it a component, we'll call it a beam. And so now this is a component inside of that. We're just going to move it into this so that it's on this surface, and then move it so that it's on this edge, and then we'll go into it with the select tool, double click it so that you're editing it, and then we'll pull this face so that it is on this outside edge right here. Boom, right there. So that's kind of like nestled in there. Don't worry about the placement because we're going to deal with that up top when we go back upstairs to look at the other 2 roofs. Yeah. And then we'll grab this and escape out. We'll grab it, we'll move it, and then move it over a little bit and place it somewhere in there. Let's add a little bit more detail to this thing. We'll grab it, we'll edit one of them, and we'll grab the tape measure, and we will measure down 4 inches. Oh, I'm sorry, 2 inches. We'll measure down 2 inches, so it's halfway. Measure in 2 inches, or 4 inches. So in 4 inches, down 2 inches, and then we'll make a little cut here. Just draw a line from here to here, and then we can take the push-pull tool to push that across. And notice how it cut it out over here too. So it makes like a little bevel on there. And we can do the same thing over here. You want to take your tape measure, measure in about 4 inches. Take a pencil, draw that line, push-pull, and then push it all the way to the back, and it'll disappear. You're just cutting away everything that's not part of this beam. And grab this, and click out, and then click out again. And notice how I have all these guidelines. We'll go in here and delete all guides. Now, let's pop up here and take a peek underneath here. So we want these supports to be centered on these columns. So this is where we want to work up here. So let's get rid of you for a second. So let's double click to get inside of this, and then we'll select one of these. Now I can move it back and forth, and it'll kind of line up with the other one. So let's try this. There's a couple of ways that we can do this. Since we know how thick this column is, it's 3 inches, I can grab it on this edge, get it locked in the green axis by getting it on the green axis and then holding shift, and then I can infer to this edge. Then once it's there, I can just grab it again, move it into the green axis and say 1.5 inches. Sorry? I thought it was 3. Aren't those 3 inches? 1.5? That's weird. Or it'd be 1 inch. It would be half an inch. We move it over 0.5. Yeah, then it's centered on the column. The other way that I can do this is grab this, and to get it centered on this guy, is we will start, we want to grab it by like the midpoint here on this beam. And then we want to infer to somehow get to the midpoint of this geometry. Now, in order to do this, we actually can go into X-ray mode. So I'm going to go here, click on the search tool, and type X for X-ray. And this one I actually set X-ray mode to the hotkey X because it's useful. So we'll turn on X-ray mode. And then we'll grab this midpoint and start moving it in the green axis, then hold shift to lock it in the green axis, and then kind of mouse over the top of that pillar right there. I think I need a slightly different angle to do this correctly. So we'll grab this midpoint, get it on the green, hold shift, and then I want to infer to the top of that pillar. And it's not working here. Grab you, green axis. We'll grab the midpoint of this one. That'll get it on there. And turn off X-ray mode by clicking X. Or going into here and turning it off. So just to change it to X, you just click on this and hit X, and then it works just fine. All right, we'll do one last thing here just for fun. We'll escape out so that we're on this, and then we're going to take both of these two things and duplicate them over a little bit. Start moving them in the green axis, hit Control, and then get them kind of centered over this other roof. And you can take that midpoint and get it moving in the green axis, and then hold Shift, and then refer to that middle so that you get them centered over the beams again. And then once again, we'll take this and start dragging it down on the blue axis so they're not overlapping. And then you might want to play around with the rotation on these a little bit. So maybe tilt this one, angle this one down a little bit, angle this one down a little bit, and then call that good. All right, so there we have it, our beginning geometry for this tutorial. I'll delete that reference roof line, and then we'll call that good. We'll see you in the next video.